Hey, what's up? It's CJ. Before we begin the podcast, we just want to give a quick rest in peace to Reggio Say, aka Combat Jack. If you don't know who Combat Jack was, this was a guy who really revolutionized the hip-hop podcast world. And he was one of the first to ever do it with the Combat Jack show. He gave great interviews, had a lot of great insight, and was really loved by the hip-hop community. And so it only felt right, especially since Caleb and I are beginning our podcast journey, to pay homage to Combat Jack. So rest in peace, Combat, and thank you so much for your contribution to the hip-hop world. But yeah, let's go ahead and get on with the show. Keep it going! Keep it going!
Here we go.
Jackie, let's go!
Yes!
Woo!
We're here. We made it.
Damn.
It's been a whole year.
Whole year.
It's been a whole year since 2016, guys.
Exactly.
How you feeling?
And now we're at the end of 2017, believe it or not. And what we're looking at here is possibly the best year that we've had in hip-hop. Possibly. Arguably.
We're going to do a little bit of arguing today.
Because we have for you the top 5 hip-hop R&B albums, according to Caleb and CJ here.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean...
Thank you, mama.
We wanted to touch on this because I think a big thing was that, especially what Rolling Stone said, right? They said hip-hop is now the number one genre in America. It took over rock. Rock has been number one for the longest. And so now we're in this new era where, you know, everything you see, everything that's popular is hip-hop, you know? And so we noticed that with this year, we saw a lot of crazy releases.
Well, here's the thing. Not only is hip-hop, this Rolling Stones thing, not only is it the new pop norm, surpassing rock, we have more people than ever rapping.
Yeah.
And we have more diverse rappers than ever.
And we have more access to it than ever.
And the access is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you could be in
These
your...
SoundCloud guys.
Exactly. Man. You could be in your basement by yourself and just be some weird random kid. You post your shit on SoundCloud, and all of a sudden you're the next biggest thing. You're popping.
We had a few releases by weird kids.
Yeah, weird kid for sure.
Weird kids.
This was the weird kid year for sure.
Absolutely. So diverse views. We have diverse voices. We have more people than ever rapping.
Exactly.
We have the platform within pop music.
Exactly.
That's why we wanted to do this.
Yeah. So we're gonna touch on this. Caleb and I both have our top 5, lists of what we think were the albums of the year. Why are we credible? Why should people listen to us?
Okay, well, I'm Caleb Wassell. I've always been poppin' is the main thing.
There you go.
You can trust me.
Well, I think at our core, right, we're just straight hip-hop fans. We are not biased toward one thing or another. We don't listen to just underground. We don't listen to just mainstream. We're not just accustomed to mumble rappers. You know,
absolutely.
We have a pretty broad view.
And we've just been hip-hop fans for a while. In high school, started with some underground stuff. I'll tell you right now, I'm kind of biased. My favorite hip-hop artist always will be, forever, Kanye West.
Okay.
This year we did not get a Kanye West release, so you can trust me.
Unfortunately.
I'm not biased no more, you know?
For sure. And mine's Lil Yachty, so that's greatest hip-hop artist out.
Okay.
Don't take that seriously.
He's a Bone Thugs guy.
I am.
A Bone Thugs guy.
I'm surprised you remember that.
Of course
I mean, Bone Thugs was very important to my love for hip-hop. One of the first albums I bought was, what was it? I think 50 Cent was the first one I bought along with Fabulous. So if they do have some kind of bias, it might be like an East Coast bias. But I think now, just looking at where we both are, I mean, we can listen to anything and find a way to like it and also find a way to hate it. So that's why you guys should listen to us. We're not...
Yeah, absolutely.
We're pretty...
We know this is going to be a contentious list. What we did here structurally, me and CJ, we just shared our top lists about 10 minutes ago.
No, we gonna fight.
Just for structural reasons.
You gonna hear punches.
So there's going to be some punches, and we just want you to come along with us, and we're excited to hear your feedback as well. So if you listen to this, at the end, whatever, Let us know how
Oh
you're
yeah,
feeling.
leave us comments for
Leave us
sure.
comments,
Like, let us know if you disagree with everything we say or something that we say. Like, let us know. Like,
if we had busted choices.
We're here for this.
Absolutely.
We ready for the debate.
If we like bad music, you need to let us know.
For sure.
Right? So,
but I think another thing that we should mention is we understand that music and hip hop, this is art, right? It's subjective. So at the end of the day, as much as we're going to argue, because we're going to go to bat for our picks, but there's nothing right or wrong, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, no one's going to be right or wrong about these picks. But yet, we're going to act like we're going to act like someone's wrong and someone's right.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, so it's subjective.
Uh-huh.
We're admitting that. We both made a top 5 list. We're going to take a moment, like every great podcast does.
Mm-hmm.
CJ, tell me your criteria. When you were looking at albums this year and in your list, what is that reflecting? What do you value? Why did you make these picks?
For sure. So, for me, a great album is something that's complete. It's got to be a complete body of work. And I know that's hard to find these days, especially in the mixtape era when a bunch of people just put 10 songs together that they made, don't want to go through the record label and sampling and clearing all that. And, you know, they just put music out just to try to get it on the radio. For me, the most important thing was something that's complete, something that I like from beginning to end. I'm either skipping no tracks at all or maybe skipping 1 or 2 on it. It's got to take you through a journey for me. You know, you got to put me through different emotions. I tend to lean toward concept albums because it shows that they put a cohesive thought into something, right? And so I tend to lean toward those things. And I know in the past we've talked about how Caleb thinks we're beyond that.
Well, don't hit us with a take that hot yet.
Okay.
I think, well, finish up. Yeah, what else?
Well, yeah. And I think buzz is something where it didn't mean everything, but it's important to know what's popular in hip-hop. So that played a little part in it, but I think the one thing I valued most is, did it put me in deep thought, right? Did it evoke emotions for me? That, yeah. And, you know, did it just make me pay attention throughout the whole thing? You know, there can be albums where they have great songs that you love, but the whole work in itself, it makes you tune out. And so that's what I was focused on. Albums that are complete, albums where I can feel the emotion throughout the whole thing. And me personally, I love hearing albums that have great intros and great outros.
The bookends.
Right? Yep, exactly. The beginnings and the endings. Strong beginnings, strong endings. I think you're going to see that when I mention my list. But yeah, I think those were the points that I made when I made it. So how about you? Let's hear it.
Okay. Well, let's see. For my top 5, I think that I would agree. I like a journey in an album. I think my choices sort of reflect that. I will say for my picks, I like what you said about just being captivated. To have a complete thought helps with that for sure. This year, as I was listening to all this music, they're getting real good at just hip-hop in general, just this sonic frequency.
There you go.
The sound on all these is so much more polished.
Production is huge.
Because you get production, because it's the biggest thing on earth right now. Hip-hop is running it, you know? And so sometimes I'm really just attracted to that. You got some bold choices sound-wise being made. But I guess when I was looking at this list, it was definitely just about, are you capturing my attention in a way that's bigger than half of the album? It's got to be, like you said, maybe skip 1 or 2 tracks.
Yeah.
You gotta make art as much as that sounds like I can't defend it or describe it.
Right.
You can tell when someone was there to make a project.
Right.
And the point of a project, whether that is a mixtape or an album, or depending on the hype, it doesn't matter. It's just about if you came to bat on that level. And there was like a cohesive thing and you put me through emotions. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. I like you said
And
that.
there are a lot of artists out there that they just want to get the radio record. They just want their record playing in the club. And so they're going to throw out a bunch of records, right, and hope that one sticks. And so they don't pay attention to making that cohesive project. They just want to put out as many tracks as possible so that way they have a better chance of
so
getting...
it's in rotation for like 2 years.
Exactly. There are artists that are out there doing that, and props to them. I have nothing against that. But for this list, like, we're looking at projects.
What I will say about my top 5, I would extend that, into some of our honorable mentions and stuff too. I believe that I'm also looking for something that's life affirming in its way and also human.
Sure.
So in hip hop, there's a lot of braggadocio. There's a lot of there's veneer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that. Every album on my top 5 is so human, and they're operating from such a pure place of experience and living through something. And I think all of my top 5, anyone can relate to.
Yeah.
And it's not about the specifics of circumstance or where these rappers came from or where we came from. If you make me feel human and you're putting me through a journey that I can see, that's a great album in general. Yeah. That's not about hip hop.
Yeah, and
that's great music.
I don't want to go on a tangent about this, but I feel like there's a whole another conversation that can be had about how in this era, back then hip hop was rappers talking about how much more they have than you, how better they are than you, right? And now we're in an era where you're hearing about artists that try to sound similar to us in terms of what's going on internally with them, right? And making us feel that, right? So I think that's a interesting thing to touch on about, especially this year and these days. Yeah. These
days, we're these gays guys now. We're old now.
Did you just say these gay guys?
We're these gay guys now, dude. I fucked it up.
No, but...
No, we don't want to sound old. We are so excited by the new generation. We're excited by everything coming out of hip-hop right now,
Yep, you're going to see...
It's a huge year. It's a bloated year, some people would say. There's just so much music.
Yeah, and you had old people and newer artists come out with projects. And you're going to see that in our picks. Like, you're going to see people who have been veterans and also some of the newer faces out there as well. So
it's cool.
Yeah. All right, so where do we go? Where do we go from here?
Okay, well, we took a look at our picks.
Yeah.
And we are going to start with wins and losses.
There you go.
Wins and losses!
Turn us to bosses.
Meek Mill. Philly.
Yep. Shout out Philly. Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. Get them.
For sure.
We're going to let CJ start with this one.
Yeah.
This is CJ's number 5 pick on his top 5. For me, this ran into my honorable mention category at number 6.
There you go.
So we are very much of,
pretty close.
Mind a little bit about it.
Pretty close.
Didn't make my top 5, but yeah, we're definitely there.
Yeah.
CJ, why don't you lead us in on this incredible album?
Yeah, for sure. So what we saw from Meek Mill this year, I think, was incredible and unprecedented. I mean, just before the album came out, let's look at this. Meek Mill was basically dead. He was dead. I mean, Drake
was dead.
Drake killed him.
Right? His body was on the ground.
Yeah, his body was lifeless.
Yeah.
Right? And it just seemed like he couldn't come out of that hole.
Absolutely.
Right? Because even after the whole Drake stuff, he was still like making a fool of himself and getting in trouble, and then like he broke up with Nicki.
He was getting clowned. I was clowning him.
Yep, exactly. Everyone was. I think everyone was
clowning him. He was just a fool, man.
Right. And so we even heard it in some of the releases like right after. So not wins and losses, but like Dream Chasers 4.
Yeah.
Right? We heard that he was still trying to go at Drake, and he was like so focused on, just trying to win a battle that he already lost. Right? And it sounded like he was butthurt about it.
For real, man.
Yeah, and I feel like that hurt his music at the time, so we kind of gave up on his career. But at one point, something told him to just be like, hey, I think it's time that I take this L and just admit it.
Absolutely.
And then get focused. And that's what this album brought, right? This album didn't go at Drake anymore. He wasn't angry at anything. He grew up, he took that L, and he went back to putting the focus into telling his story, right?
Absolutely.
He went back to talking about how he came from the bottom, and this is weird because I'm going to use a Drake quote. Started from the bottom, and then now he's here, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the whole Drake thing, even though he was the one that initiated it, this brought out the best in Meek Mill. Absolutely, because he needed to be humbled. It sounded
Look
like
at the maturity on this release.
Exactly.
It kills me.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from Meek Mill, coming from post L Meek Mill,
he needed it.
Such an adult. He's a class act, dude, and everyone loves him right now because of this. Because he just next echelon, man.
Yeah, and
you know,
I watched the interview like right before the album came out. Well, actually, it was after the album came out, right? So I watched 2 interviews with him, and one, he sounded great in the interviews. Like he was like, "Yeah, you know, I've learned a lot, and I want to move forward." And he even talked about like wanting to make up with Drake in the future, you know. But what I was focused on, I was like, all right, how is everyone else gonna look at this? Like, are people gonna still roast him in the comments? Are people, you know, still gonna make fun of him, put out memes? I went through some of the comments, and I can tell you like 95 to like 99% of the comments were like, yo, this guy, like W's. I saw W's instead of L's the first time, for real. And everyone was like back on listening to Meek Mill, and they loved the album. So it got a lot of street buzz too. But yeah, I mean, this is what this album was about. It was about coming from being the scum of hip hop to, you know, getting through it and persevering, and going back to being related to it, or, you know, being in tune with it. Like for me, that was my go-to album this year whenever I needed to get motivated, whether I was like in the gym or whatever, right? Or if I was like having trouble just trying to get through something, I would listen to that album and it would just pump me up, you know, because he just came hard. The production was great. Now, we know that Meek Mill is not the most lyrical out there. He doesn't have the best punchlines, nothing like, you know, memorable, but it's just the energy. I think he makes up for it in the energy that he brings. When he's yelling in each track, you know, and he's just pumping you up, telling you, "Hey, I've come from the bottom, and now look at me now, and you can do this too."
Which is such a classic rap thing.
Yeah.
But this shit felt so fucking fresh on this album, and I don't even know why. And I think it was because what you're saying, he was coming from the position of like the underdog, because he took so many L's, he's getting so clowned. Right. And then to come this hard and just on a classic album, all time, man. I mean, these tracks, dude, like the whole thing doesn't stop. The whole thing doesn't stop. It's consistent the whole way through, and it's just compelling. It's just goddamn compelling.
And I'm telling you, man, like, I don't think he gets enough credit for the actual messages in his album too. Because even though, like I said, he's not that lyrical, but he wants his people to do better. Like he's always encouraging people in the street, like, hey man, like you gotta, I went through this so you didn't have to go through this. I'm telling you what not to do, you know, and you hear that in the album. And I don't think people give that enough respect or enough credit. I think he's literally like one of the best street rappers out there, if not the best. I'm willing to make that statement, because there are a lot of street rappers, a lot of those like New York dudes that go out there and rap hard. But this guy, I mean, he brings the energy, and a lot of street people respect him. So, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I thought about Meek Mill. I don't know if you have any other thoughts. We could go over some of the tracks if you wanted to. But
I thought, I mean, it was whatever. I think, thematically, we got to everything important. I think that's why I loved it. Mm-hmm. It was very much, I think, you go to work out. You go to when you're just going through some shit. And he's just like, I did it. I righted the whole ship. I turned it all the way around. Mm-hmm. He's making anthems for his city.
There you go.
He still loves where he comes from, when that doesn't matter for so many rappers anymore, honestly. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't have to. I'm not saying it needs to. But this just felt like that city. I'm like,
oh yeah,
Philly's rocking with this.
And Philly should be proud of it.
They're proud of this, and they got it. And he's on the bikes doing his thing, showing off. Like, that's Meek Mill.
Yeah, and it sucks he's back in jail. But, I mean, he left something that is going to be listened to for a while. I mean, he has some... I don't know if any of the tracks are going to be considered classic on here, but, like, 1942 Flows was hard. I Will Never Lose, that was hard. Price was the one I loved. That's the ending track, right? The ending track, and that was where I knew it had to be on my list after I listened to Price.
Price was insane.
Yeah.
It's just it's one of those where there's a lot of really consistent work.
Yeah.
Sort of, and I don't even know 1942 Flows. Obviously, I mean, what an anthem.
Yeah.
And he's making anthems, and it's like,
and
you got to eat the dream, dude.
And speaking of the dream, there were some solid features on there. The Dream was on there, I believe. Yeah, he was on Young Black America. So he had, he got the vocals there. He got Uzi Vert, shows that Philly unity on there. Chris Brown and Ty Dolla $ign on there. Young Thug was on there. Future was on there. Rick on 2-track, Rick Ross, Quavo, because everyone has to have a Quavo feature these days. So, solid feature list on there.
Cool.
I'm
cool with that. I love this. I love this pick, CJ. I love that album. Like I said, again, this is CJ's number 5. This came in.
Now here's where it's gonna get interesting. Now,
as we transition into our next point of contention. Mm-hmm. Something very interesting was revealed to us.
Yeah.
The next album that we're going to talk about is More Life. More Life by Drake.
And talk about where we ranked him.
So, on More Life, this is my number 5. This is CJ's number 7. This falls into CJ's honorable mention a little bit.
Well, stop there. So this year, Caleb has Drake still winning the battle. I have Meek Mill coming back and winning this battle. Not that there was like a battle.
Now you're about to say that though. Now you're about to say that.
Yeah.
This is a list about albums.
I know.
If you want to go artist to artist, Meek Mill beat Drake this year.
Okay.
I'm voting for More Life over Wins and Losses.
Sure.
And I'm gonna open this up and we'll talk about it. We thought that was so crazy.
Yeah.
That as we looked at this, and the first two we were going to talk about, they had kind of the inverse ranking. Mm-hmm. Wins and Losses and More Life. So there's still the little bit of the Drake in.
So why'd you put More Life at number 5?
I'm going to talk to you about More Life right now. This album, we did a little bit of the dive on where Meek Mill was.
Yeah.
And I think it's, even though Drake was winning that sort of beef, that one specific moment, the thing about More Life that was crazy to me is where were we before? Anybody remember a little album called Views from the 6?
I knew you were going to go there.
Views from the 6, baby. You know what these views, you know what it's like? You sit on top of the world's largest pile of money, and you jerk off.
Or the Toronto Needle.
Yeah, you sit on top of the off-brand Space Needle, and you look down at all these people that want you for your money, and all these women that are using you, and you cry and you jerk off, and you make an album that sonically is the sound of like a tumbleweed moving through moving through the world's largest building on Pluto, and you cry.
You really thought that out.
Really thought that out. Now let's talk about Drake's turn. Drake goes from loneliest millionaire on top of his pile of immense wealth. When More Life comes out.
Yeah.
How invigorating was this? I want to talk about that moment.
Sure.
Now, that moment, I understand, was truncated, had a very short moment, because there was another release that happened that took away a lot of that thunder from More Life. And it did it quickly. Mm-hmm. Okay, Now I'm talking about that moment, and the album goes beyond the moment. Let me talk specifics here. This is why More Life is an incredible album. Definitely top 5 this year.
Okay.
No question for me. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
We talked about there's the short moment. Okay. Drake's second best project. Now, if that's a hot take, everybody think about it. Pull out your keyboard.
What's your
and
first?
shit on me.
If it's what I think it is.
Of course it's what you think it is.
Take Care?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We are blessed this year to have Drake's second best project.
Okay.
And I stand by that. So in the discussion, before we go in, we're talking it's Drake's second best project, and we're talking ahead a short moment, why it's here. Okay. Let me read you some song titles. These are in order. Passion Fruit, Georgia Interlude, Jorge. I have no idea.
Jorge.
Get It Together.
Yep.
My Deeper Rhythm. Blam. We got 4422. Gyal Chester. Skepta, right?
Skepta
Interlude.
outro. Or interlude.
Yeah, right? Portland, Sacrifices.
Yeah.
That fucking stretch alone. One of the best albums of the year. That's insane. I'm talking about he's using Sampha to devastating effect on a song that's just like 44, 22. And it's incredible and it kills you. And even when he's playing in a sandbox that he has no right to, and he's appropriating certain music that he doesn't come from, guess what? He doesn't really come from anything because Drake started doing the Houston shit.
Right.
Okay. He's from Toronto. He is an international rapper, remind you.
Yes.
I love when he plays in these sound boxes. No one's ears are this open. This is what Drake does. When Drake is revitalized and he comes back, and More Life was about that.
Yeah, it was.
He named his album that. He wants to come back with more life and show us Drake is not dead. I will make great projects for the rest of my life.
Oh,
so I'm all in. I think he turned around for me. He turned around the message for me, for sure.
Yeah, I think
his ears are so open. He's so ready to play, and to have the radio sensibility to push something that's a little like, this is the one where he's doing grime.
Yeah.
Correct? He's doing grime. He's still doing his dance hall thing. He's doing his beach melodies,
And that's where we want to go here, because he's a pioneer in the sense that he's not creating a new sound, but he is making it popular. He is the one that started the dancehall movement.
Absolutely.
Here. As much as you hate to say that, I'm sorry, New York. I'm sorry, East Coast. All right? I'm sorry to all the Haitians out there and to all those from Trinidad
Haitians.
and out there. But let's be real about it.
Yeah.
He brought the dancehall sound back here and made it mainstream. And after he did that, all of the artists went out and tried to make their renditions of it. But then Drake comes back with More Life, and we remember who brought it here in the first place.
Absolutely.
Because the Sonics on here were mind-blowing.
Crazy. And that's something that, again, on this list this year, that took some projects through the roof. Just the fact that production was like, everyone was on it, because this changes the world. The producers that work with these artists, they're being heard everywhere. Drake can drop an album and he can be heard for 2 years on the radio. Give that man a couple gold bricks. For real.
So for me, and I want to touch on this too. For me, here's the reason why it wasn't in my top 5 was, I think the stretch that you mentioned of those songs, that was a great stretch. How many songs were on that album?
If you want to talk about this, I'm going to say this. The only bad song on that album, Teenage Fever.
And I like Teenage Fever.
No, don't fuck around.
I did. And that was the one with the J-Lo sample, right?
That's not good. That's a bad song.
Bro,
Dog.
I like that.
Get the fuck. The one that I liked that was trash was Somethings into Nothings.
I'm trying to remember that one.
Where he's just like, how you gonna go get married and not tell me?
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
But
I love it.
Well, so there's that. I thought there were too many tracks.
Right.
I
think there were too many tracks.
There were too many tracks. And because of that, I only got through it like 3 times. really.
Right.
Just because I didn't have time to sit with it like that. And
I guess I would agree with you if you made a point about this not being the most efficient vehicle for the work he did.
mm-hmm.
There could be some trimming. I believe that he's learning from Atlanta to make bloated projects.
Yeah.
Because for Drake, he doesn't pay a consequence for that.
No, yeah.
He just gets to spin on the radio a little longer. I think that's what he's here to do. I think this album's incredible. I think it might make you ask questions about our criteria. I would agree that it's not the most concise story.
Mm-hmm.
It is my number 5. I think there's a lot of failures. I think it's not perfect. I'm telling you, you really like intros and outros.
Yeah. Oh, Free
All
Smoke.
time outro. Dude, Sense Take Care, man, is Do Not Disturb.
Okay.
That is like
I was feeling that.
That is him doing Take Care.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah,
sampling,
I can
like
hear
that. That is sonically, that's Drake at his best. That's Drake at a way in a form you don't even see him on this album really. That outro is perfect, and that made me just feel like, man, his heart and soul is still here, and he's gonna make great music for a while now. So yeah, Do Not Disturb. Do Not Disturb is probably my favorite track on the album. It's mad important. I believe even singles that were out from before, Fake Love. I haven't had as much fun this year. Ice Melts and Fake Love. Like those tracks are just they're jubilant. Mm-hmm. They're so exuberant, and it's just like you're having fun in a radio way that Drake can give to you, but it's also like something only he can do. He's a master.
Yeah, and he's good at it. Like, as much as you want to hate on Drake, like, you're still singing along when you hear it on the radio.
Oh, yeah.
And he's the master of, making you do that, even though you want to
You don't
profess.
want to.
Yeah, even though you don't want to.
I'm going to shoot myself in my foot so it doesn't tap to this Drake song.
Right. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's my whole thing. I believe you respect the choice, CJ.
No, I do.
Okay. I know it's a big.
It
It's
went
a big
hard
album.
in the club for real. All those hits.
Absolutely.
They went hard. All right, where we go next?
Well, where we're going next is our number 4 pick. Me and CJ both we linked up on the 4th pick. We both had the same pick.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been because of the subconscious hinting of the number 4.
Right.
So our number 4.
Y'all know where we're going with this.
Was 444.
There you go.
Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
He's back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he never left.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to talk about the fact that this is the only good late Jay-Z project ever.
Define late. Where are we starting from?
2002. I don't fucking know. I
Careful,
don't know
Caleb.
the time of it.
Careful.
I fucked up, huh?
No, you're good.
You tell me.
Well, no, I agree, though. If we're talking about comparing this to Magna Carta Holy Grail, then yes. Because I feel like that. Even Blueprint 3, yeah. I would say it's definitely better than that. For sure.
I fucked it up, man. You tell me the years. You know, like.
No, I don't know the years either.
I'm telling
but
you.
I remembered, I think.
The Black Album.
The Black Album came out
Doubt.
after 2002. That's
Really?
why I wanted to.
See, that's crazy.
I think it did.
Yeah, I fucked it up then.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. I guess.
Yeah, continue.
Like Blueprint 3, obviously Magna Carta Holy Grail. He's just doing like.
Well, here's my take on that. So, Blueprint 3, Magna Carta Holy Grail. Those two albums, he was trying to show that, hey, I'm still a big dog here. I can still be relevant. I can still make the radio hits and run laps around everyone. Right? That was what he was attempting to do. And whether you like those albums or not, he got a shit ton of radio plays, right? And people still saw him as number 1 after those albums. But they weren't that great, to be honest. So,
the thing about Magna Carta Holy Grail being the one where Jay-Z tries performance art is that album wasn't art.
Picasso, baby.
That's Picasso's, baby. Warhol's all on the walls of the villa, baby.
There you go.
So, who wants to lead on this?
No, I'll go in.
I mean, we both. Yeah, you go in. I have some takes too. Yeah.
So, kind of going off the point I was just talking about, we have an album here where Jay was not going for the fame or for the radio record. He was not going for the publicity here. This was an album that he obviously needed to make because his name has been buzzing around about so many different topics. What are your views on Trump? You cheated on Beyonce?
Right.
You know? You're having twins? Like, what's going on here? Like, we got to hear from you. Right? And so Jay went away from trying to be cute, you know, with the radio sound, and he linked up with No ID, one of the greatest of all time, right?
What an interstellar choice.
Mm-hmm. And No ID was the only producer on this album. I don't know if there was like one or two other tracks where they brought in someone else, but No ID was the main producer. So he went the route of just sticking with one person and be like, hey, make all of my beats for me here on this. So because of that, he just had a platform to talk about what he wanted to talk about. He didn't care about getting #1 hits. He didn't care about charting. This was just an opportunity for us to hear from someone who we don't hear from a lot, right? He's a mystery whenever he doesn't release music.
Well, he's a mystery when he does release music.
That too.
Magna Carta Holy Grail. I mean, this is, you're talking about, you briefly touched on the news cycle stuff. Mm-hmm. I will say this is the only, like in recent memory, Jay/Beyonce release that I haven't felt like they were stringing you along about the intrigue of, let's figure this out, power couple, what's going on. Okay, On the Run tour is there to make a big deal about this is the perfect couple. Mm-hmm. They're taking, we're so happy, they're blowing it into a media sensation, so you can go to their thing and watch the movie, you can go to the concert, see their little movie. Oh, they're so perfect, all this. We're being used. Mm-hmm. You're marketing your relationship. Lemonade, we're being used. Yeah. Beyonce comes out talking about infidelity. I believe the Becky stuff. It obviously happened because of this album, but it was still geared for like her audience to be like, fuck him, I felt that way.
But do you blame him?
No. But it was a marketing thing.
It was.
For Lemonade, and I felt used by that. I felt used by, like I said, everything about the relationship until this. This is what I love about this album is that he is being so honest that you don't even like him for it. He is talking about Beyonce on this album, and he's saying stuff like, I proposed to you, professed my love, whatever, when you were 21. I wasn't ready. You just always matured faster than me. That is a shitty excuse for cheating. He's a terrible person, and that's why it's so real. Because in this album, you get these moments where it's like Jay-Z isn't trying to be big dog on the block. He's not trying to sun young boys that are shitting on him. He's being like, I'm a flawed old man. Mm-hmm. I am not super relevant anymore. This is my pain. This is my legacy. You know, the line when he's like, my kids are going to find out Santa Claus is fake when they know that I've been cheating. Wow. He's saying astounding, breathtaking things, and they're all in this vein that's just so heartfelt from a dude that we assumed was just an automaton. We assumed he's just like P. Diddy. Yeah. Like, when have you heard anything, you know what I'm saying? Just this figure. And with Jay-Z, the problem is that he is the most self-mythologizing motherfucker ever. Mm-hmm. That's how he makes his money. He's not doing that on this album. No. That's incredible. Magna Carta Holy Grail was like, let's buy art with millions. Yeah.
But now he's telling other people to buy art with and make millions.
I do have criticisms with this album. Absolutely. Do you have any? What else do you want to?
Well, I mean, I agree with your point. This was his most vulnerable. This is him at his most honest, right? And specifically talking about 444, like the song. Right. I think there's a deeper point in this where, as a man, he's using his vulnerability to show his growth, even though he's an old artist. He's trying to encourage other people to I don't know how to say this. Like, I feel like on that song, he overstated his apology, right? Because he's talking about how,
Absolutely.
oh, I wasn't there, so it caused a lot of stillborns and all that. And I was like, is that necessary to say?
That single line.
Do you really think that's your fault? You know,
Right.
That's kind of what I felt. But I think that's the point, right? To say, hey, I've grown so much, and even though it may not even really be my fault, right? I'm gonna be a man and just apologize for this and take the L. Take responsibility.
I do think real quick that single line.
Yeah.
About like your body wouldn't accept it.
Yeah, something like that.
That is so baffling. I have read different shit about it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just like, that was the darkest, most powerful line in hip hop this year.
Really?
And then it's also just like, you're over explaining and you're being weird
Exactly.
about this. And like, it's such a weird line. I love it though. I think that's all part of the character of the album when he says crazy shit like that. He's over apologizing too.
Yeah.
This is a problem I have about it. He's just like, coming back. Forgive me, Beyonce.
Yeah.
He's telling us about things he can't fix, and I think in the subtext there is what's important. This was the album about Jay-Z being flawed.
Yeah.
Thank you. He's just like, I'm a kind of fucked up man, and now that I'm aging, I'm going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible. I don't think he's really been on that tip before. That's really powerful to me. You know?
No, this is the most open we've seen Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And I think it was needed. It was needed for the culture, especially with him at such a high level as the face of hip hop, you could argue.
Absolutely.
And like I said, we don't hear from him all the time. So to be able to not just hear about what's going on in his life, but like on Story of OJ.
Well, number one, we've been doing the personal tip. An American Saga.
Mm-hmm.
This song is like, not to mention, you cannot talk about this song without the accompanying music video.
Yeah.
The art on that, this is one of the best pieces of work this entire year.
Oh, yeah.
That video with that song, this is an American Saga. He's touching on everything.
Uh-huh.
He's not being super self-serious about it, or like the way we think about conscious rappers, and you're kind of like, all right, well, you're beating me over the head with like, all politicians are crooked.
Yeah.
It's so heartfelt. His line was just like,
and
about OJ. Okay, like it's just crazy, and
it was so simple, and it's that classic Jay-Z feeling of a line.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but
absolutely.
It was like, wow.
And he's our elder statesman, and we deserve this from him.
We do.
And in the same way, this was the one where he did things like I've seen Nas do. I love Nas's like late career. I think he's doing important work, and he's talking about being a person. He's being human. Jay-Z did it now, and I'm so proud of him.
For sure.
It's a great album.
Now, just really quick before we get off of this. A lot of people, some people out there are calling this is Jay-Z's best album. And it's hard for me to admit that, which I think explains why for me, it wasn't higher on my list. Right? Okay. A lot of lists that when I did the research, a lot of lists had this at number 2. Or in the top 3. And for me, it's just hard to rank it higher when I know that it's not your best work.
Right, I believe that is a bias that sometimes is bad for us to have.
It is, yeah.
Because like I'm just talking so much about More Life is the second best, so that means a lot to me. I think that this can't be higher on the list because it is flawed. I hate to do this. It's never about length. You're talking about More Life being bloated. This was very light. This was very light.
It was really
I felt like he could have given more, especially because there's a couple tracks that aren't like as important as, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like after you make the OJ one is like,
well, here
Moonlight is in a similar vein, but it's not as important. It's
like
it's just like a B version,
continuation of his rant.
So some of it felt like for 10, it's 10, right? For 10 tracks,
yeah.
For some of it to feel like retreads or like not essential. It is a light album.
That's true.
So people would tout that as a strength. I don't really, because I think you could have given us more.
I put my key songs on there as Kill Jay-Z, Story of OJ, 444, Family Feud, and Bam. Those are my 5
I like that.
on there.
I think that Family Feud was the counterpoint to The Darkness and the Failure. It soars. It's got Beyonce on it.
It does.
And it sounds
And she's not even
like,
doing that much.
And she's just hi.
It sounds great.
It's just how you make it, you know? Nobody wins with the Family Feuds, right?
What's
Keep
better
that
than One
together.
Billionaire?
2.
2. For sure. All right.
I love it. I love it. It's a great album.
But yeah, that's
oh
that.
Oh my god, yeah.
What's next?
Let me grab my little thing. Okay, we have an interesting situation now. We're going to talk about my pick, number 3 on my list. This did not make it on CJ's top 5 or the extended version, his top 7. So we'll have a little bit to talk about there. What I will say now, at this point in my list, because I'm getting into my numbers 3, 2, and 1, we are now in perfect albums territory. My top 3 picks were perfect albums. I will tell you why as I drain my heart and soul to this podcast in the CJC, CJ Caleb Podcast Network.
This is where the punches start throwing.
Here we go. Punch is going to come out. Okay, my number 3 album, unranked by CJ, is Control by SZA. Okay, let me grab my notes real quick. This superlative is going to sound not the best to lead with. This is the sexiest album of the year. By far. What I mean, this album is about yearning, longing. This is about a human's aching heart, and it's triumphant. It's not always in the pale.
Yeah.
It's not always sad. She's not always crying about something.
Right.
This is so human. Like I said, I believe that this is a perfect album. I love this album. So many lines. I want to be your golden goose. I want to shave my legs for you. That's the sexiest thing I've ever felt. That's incredible. So many lines blow your mind. The ones that grab your attention in the beginning, like, early, right? Broken Clocks, right?
Yeah.
It's got that boom behind it. It's driving force, It keeps me on the edge of my feet for like 2 weeks. Like, this is like, it's astounding. And it's just like the charts hit, and it works that way. And just like, I'm never going back to the strip club. And there's all these lines. It's just, she's got so much feeling and so much heart in this entire album. She gave so much to it. Like, The Weeknd is probably my favorite track on there.
Oh, yeah.
More lines. You say you got a girl. How you want me? How you want me when you got a girl? How?
Sing it.
She's saying things that they're blowing your mind, and they're simple. And it's as simple as, like, when you have someone and you want someone else. It's as simple as she has her finger on something. It's as simple as, among women this year, or friends around me, or a social media circle that I dabble in, I have not seen a single song shared more by women like, this is just it. This gets me than Garden.
Yeah.
Garden is everywhere. She has her finger right on the pulse of something that is so pure and such a female experience. Garden is a perfect song for anyone, but just the way I've seen the reaction to that is insane. You just get goosebumps at so many points in this album, and I believe that it has a pacing to it that works. I listen to this whole album. I don't skip anything.
Yeah.
There's ones that will catch you later after you listen a few times, and then you're like, that's my new favorite. I love that feeling when you really fuck with an album. You're going through it, and you're like, it was this, now it's this, and you're discovering it, and you're moving around. And I listened to this album so much, and it surprised me. And we were doing a rap and hip-hop end of the year thing, and this is like my R&B pick.
There you go.
And I'm amazed it was this high. I'm not even an R&B guy. It's hard for me to like get into like a Chris Brown album. One of the most human releases of the year. It will make you feel a way no matter who you are. I am so charmed by this, and for a relative newcomer to come with this kind of heat and to have like the tutelage of like the TDE kind of background, but also just strike off in that new direction. I'm floored by this. I love this album. That's kind of all I got. I would love to hear your thoughts.
And I don't even think, because when SZA first came out, we're like, okay, she's part of TDE, so she's gonna be popping.
Right.
She could be popping without TDE at this point.
Absolutely.
Right. She's transcended that label. And I think everything you said was correct. It was very real. Like, when I listen to that album, I feel like I'm like one of her like friends, and I'm just sitting in a room with her, and she's literally just walking around telling me what her thoughts are. Like, whether it's about guys that she's been with or whatever. Yeah. That's the feeling that I got, which I thought was great.
It's the, like, you're in her bedroom feeling. Right. You're totally right. She's got the mirror. She's, like, combing her hair or some shit. And you're just chilling. You're kicking it, you know? Yeah.
You're just kicking it. She's just telling you everything that's on her mind. You're just catching up with her.
A best friend, too.
Yep.
And you have such history with her. And for this to feel that worn from, like, from a newer artist, it's crazy to me. Like I said, it's that you crack it open like a worn book.
Right.
You've seen it all before, but it's fresh. She has evocative lines that just, like... The songwriting is incredible.
It was.
I'm blown away by this album.
Right.
I love this album. I believe this is a perfect album.
I don't want you guys to get me wrong. There were a lot of great songs on here. The Weeknd is easily one of my top 5 songs of the year. Easily.
It really floored me too. I love that song.
Top 5 songs. Why didn't it make my list? Well, this is also going to go kind of deep, I feel like.
All right.
Because she does have that human experience. She has the modern day woman experience, I feel like. And as much as I love the sound, as much as I love the growth that I saw from her on this album, as a man, I don't think I'm ever going to like fully understand it.
No, and that's fair.
You know?
And that's fair, yeah.
And it's like I can listen to it a billion times and I can sympathize as much as possible with her. I can praise her as much as I want. But it's just... I just couldn't fully resonate with her feelings.
I feel you.
You know?
I will say that I did appreciate the fact that it was a non-traditional narrative. It wasn't a like rap hip hop man's journey becoming a man.
Yeah, which is
making
which is
it
great.
Out, all this stuff.
I think we need to hear from more women.
Well, that's why it floored me because it was an experience that didn't always approach me as mine.
Yeah.
That's why it felt so fresh, and the fact that I was able to connect with something that wasn't my experience so hard made me just like, let's just get women in here.
Right.
Like, just the exposure to hear more voices, because as much as it made you feel like a little apart from it, it was fresh as fuck.
It was.
Me. Like, just so, I loved hearing that outpouring of emotion. I loved hearing from her. It didn't...
Well, no, she poured her heart and soul into it.
That's my number 3, man.
No doubt.
It's a perfect album, and I was very in love with it, yeah.
For sure. I'm excited to see what she comes out with in the future. I think...
Absolutely.
Her stardom is going to take her places that are... out of this world. No
Absolutely.
doubt. For sure. Where are we going next?
All right, where we going next? So, yeah, that was my number 3. Where we're going next...
Let's go. I already know where we're going. No, I already know where we're going next.
We're going somewhere.
You ready for some controversy?
We're going somewhere crazy next.
I don't think it's crazy.
We're going somewhere popping next. We're going somewhere hot next. There's some takes to be had.
It is a super hot take,
We're gonna
but
go
I'm
get
going to
'em.
stand right next to it.